Hello and welcome. I'm Asaf Sirkis and I'm here with master drummer, Mr. Ranjit Barot. Ranjit, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for asking me, and nice to see you again after
Yes,
a while.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a little while. Ranjit,
yeah,
you've been so active on the scene in India and everywhere else, basically. You've been playing with John McClaughlin, you've been MDing music for films, and so many other things, and
yeah,
so many different things as well.
yeah.
But before we launch into all that and all that Konnakol things, let's talk a little bit about where it all started for you. Could you tell us about your beginnings? How did you start?
Yeah. Um, I was very lucky that the family I was born into, my mother was one of the greatest North Indian classical dancers. Um, I mean, we'll discuss this later, but the North Indian system of rhythm and the South Indian system of rhythm are very, very different. Um, And because she was a dancer, she had always musicians in the house, jamming or rehearsing, and it wasn't confined to just the rhythm section because there were singers, sitar player maybe or whatever. So as such, I was exposed to music, not just to rhythm. Um, and eventually that's who we are. We are, when I know it's a small technicality, people say, hey, you're a drummer. No, we're musicians. Our primary instrument happens to be the drum set. But you're not hiring me to just keep time because then you can get a drum machine. You know what I mean? We're as important as any other member in the band. And good band leaders understand this. When they choose a drummer, they want somebody that can complement the whole melodic aspect of the group and yet drive it and of course serve the rhythm section. Anyway, so it started at home with my mother, and I was born in England, so I mean my first 10 years were in England. So I grew up, listening to everything that young kids were listening. I mean the Beatles, the Monkees, or whatever it was. And at the same time, I had this thing that my mother was exposing me to. So I think the beginning of this two worlds colliding happened straight from my family and my time in England. And I moved back when I was 10. And then my mother wanted to put me in a school, and it was a Catholic run school. So all English. And of course, then I got into rock and roll and, other kids who were listening to Ginger Baker and The Who and Jimi Hendrix. And so my mind started like, um, appreciating a deeper aspect of Western music. And I think the funny thing is, being Indian, I was more into drums than tabla or anything. And like take you for instance, you're such a fantastic drummer and you're so drawn to the Indian thing because I think we look for things outside our immediate environment to
That's right.
make ourselves richer spiritually and culturally. So my mother was really surprised. She said, "Really, drums? That's what you want to do?" I said, "Yeah, man. That's kind of my thing." So
And I guess hearing all these big rock bands at the time,
yeah,
you were exposed to that drum sound and the band sound and that kind
yeah,
of thing.
but I could tell straight away the difference between somebody like Keith Moon and somebody like Mike Mitchell.
Oh wow, okay.
You know,
You could
sorry, um, Jimmy's drummer,
Mitch Mitchell.
Mitch Mitchell. Sorry, I'm talking about Mike
Yeah.
Mitchell. The big kid. No,
Okay.
he's insane, man. But Mitch Mitchell, and you could see the touch he had was coming from a jazz place. Although he was playing with the greatest rock guitar player ever. But I immediately noticed that, and I said, "Okay, so what's this? I got to check this out." And somebody else who I really like, I'm a British rock drummer, but he had such a great touch. Ian Pace
Oh yeah.
with Deep Purple. What a beautiful touch. I mean, rock drumming, yes, but there's some language. Him and Bonham was like the British Tony, no? He was yeah. So but no internet, no radio, no communication. Um, so everything is from records, and somebody gets a cassette or a record, and then everyone goes to that guy's house with a little boom box, and you make a copy. You come home and you just rewind till you figure out, like, just to get a six-stroke roll for me, man. It was such a grind to figure out what Cobham was doing, and then you obviously get it wrong, but I made my own thing. So
And also
uh,
then, but then you also own it when you really find it for yourself.
that's the thing. Exactly, exactly. You know. So those are the beginnings: home, family, mother, school. We had a little band, of course, and then I got to play with a very, very progressive rock band that Trilok Gurtu used to play in. And they went to Germany, and Trilok stayed back. And when they came back, they didn't have a drummer. And I was playing with this other rock band, and they turned me on. And it's the first time we started playing really odd time signatures and writing in 10 and a half and um, stuff like that. And then I met Louis Banks, the great jazz piano player from Bombay. And one thing led to another, traveled. My first trip to Europe. It's the first time I went out and I saw jazz drummers face to face. And I was out for 3 months. That was the best university of my life because I got to see everybody, man. Al Foster, you know, James Gladden, uh, just amazing players. And I would just sit there every night and saying, wow, so that's how you do it. I was
Amazing.
20 years old. I
Yeah.
was 20, 21.
So you
Yeah.
didn't have drum lessons basically. Did you study? Did you start playing the drums in India when you were already back in India?
Yeah. Yeah. I was about 13 or 14, 13, something like that. Somebody said in school, we need a drummer. I said, I'll try.
Okay. And
And I don't know what I did, but I know that my life changed. That night, I didn't sleep, man.
you were all excited and
I was like freaked
buzzing, yeah?
out. Like, what's happening, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
what inspired you to continue with the drums and and study and learn? Obviously, you don't wake up one morning
yeah,
being a drummer.
yeah,
You need to study, and you didn't have the teacher. So how did you do that? How did you practice? Just by listening or
yeah,
checking
uh,
out?
yeah. Just listening to different records, everything from rock to jazz. There used to be one radio program that started in the 70s that we used to get. It was called Voice of America with a guy called Willis Conover. And then that's the first time I heard like big bands and like Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. And I think um, I think so. Without trying to sound very esoteric, the drums found me.
Hmm.
So I don't really think I had a choice. I cannot take credit and say, oh, it was all my hard work. I think it was the drums found me, and I found something I loved so much that made me feel a particular way that I never wanted that feeling to stop. I just didn't know what normal was. I mean, for me, it was the happiest I was when I was playing and spending time with the people I played with and talking. And it was far more interesting for me than school or college or anything else I was studying. So my life became the study, my associations with the musicians and just this great love affair. And I just couldn't get enough. It was beautiful for me,
Oh,
you know.
great story. Wow. And
Yeah.
so obviously, being from an Indian background and living a lot of your life in India, well, most of your life really,
Yeah.
you've been exposed to South and North Indian music and rhythm.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, you maybe you one of the first, or even one of or even the first guy to incorporate all these beautiful North and South Indian rhythms into
Yeah,
the drum kit.
yeah,
What did your fellow musicians think about it? How did it was accepted, and
yeah.
how did you get to do all these things?
Well, I think the first time that I actually was able to express myself with all of the duality that existed in me was when I traveled Europe with Louis Banks, because we had a South Indian. So the band was drums, bass, piano, and a saxophone player,
Yeah,
and we had a South Indian singer, a mridangam player. Uh, yeah, that was it. So we had these two components. So while I was familiar with odd time signatures, and I had never really been exposed to South Indian music that much, so this band, the lady, wonderful singer from Bangalore, and her brother, I learned so much from them, man, on the road. I mean, from rehearsals and then on the road for 3 months through Europe. And that was my introduction, big introduction to Carnatic rhythms
yeah,
and music. And I think because I don't overthink something too much, I how to say, I like to fall into things. I like to just let it happen, and I soon found a meeting point between the drum set and this. I didn't, so I don't try and play those things per se, note for note on the drums, because Tatigenatom, I mean, for us is could be anything.
yeah.
I mean,
There is
it's
no prescribed way of playing
exactly,
that yet.
exactly. So, and there won't be because it'll be our own interpretation of what tonality we choose of the drum set to complement that particular speech.
Yeah.
So, um,
In fact, actually, I was speaking to other people about this. Even if you put Tadigenadom on Merdangam, different Merdangamists will put
yeah,
different ways of doing that as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So it's
So
basically the rhythm.
exactly, exactly. So I think all music meets in one place, all the cultures. If it's frame drumming from Azerbaijan, or if it's, I don't care where it's from. Once you get past the cultural differences, and once you get past the obvious differences in language and how to express the rhythm, you arrive at one place where it's all the same. I don't know how to explain it because the intent is the same. So I've been very fortunate that I go directly to that place first. I don't see boundary and barrier. I don't see it. I'm a very simple, silly kind of individual. I go straight to the point where it all kind of makes sense, and I make sense of it the best way I can. And as long as we can make meaningful music with this information, because that's what we want to do. We you can be an academician. You could be. We're all academic up to a point, but eventually, I need to be in a state of joy.
Hmm.
And for me to be in a state of joy is for me to be very, very simple and innocent and not be too clever about things.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
mean, it
Yeah.
seems that your process with anything that to do with music has been extremely natural and organic, and there hasn't been
Eh,
that kind of academic side to it so much.
No, in fact, I'll be honest with you. I know, even you, I've heard your Konnakols and stuff, much better than mine. Speaking wise, much better. No, because I don't spend too much time. We'll come to that later about what I feel is the role of Konnakol and that information in my life. Um, so whatever you can do to maximize your potential, and it varies from person to person. And Indian music and rhythm doesn't belong to India; it belongs to everybody. and there are some great drummers worldwide that are using this information in ways that I find very inspiring. So just being Indian doesn't make you the gatekeeper of the community. No, it belongs to. I will learn something from you or from, I don't know, Steve Smith or somebody, maybe something that I didn't think of because I'm too close to it. Sometimes that is also a problem, you know?
Yes, yeah, I
You
understand.
have to step back like from an like you will look at it differently because you have a larger sort of view. And that's important. That's
Yes,
important too,
yes, that's
you
amazing.
know?
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I had so many people on the show giving me so many different points of view. You know, some people are more seems to be more academic and more like this has to be in a certain way, and that's
Uh,
the way to do it. And some people say, okay, but you can take that, and you can take this, and you can match this and that, and make all of these other things with it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's incredible to hear your story, and especially the process of you becoming a musician and learning. I think it's very, very valuable, especially in this day and age of academic musical
Oh,
process.
oh, don't even get me started, man. You know, I mean, I was telling, I did an interview with Modern Drummer a couple of years ago, and I was telling them that, listen, if I wanted to play like Horacio, like El Negro, I would go to his house and eat his food first, you know? I would sit at the table, hear how they speak, because it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
You know, how academic are you? Yeah, you can learn a clave, but are you going to play it like Horacio? No, man, because it's coming from his speech and his mind and his dreams and his soul. So, I mean, you can learn it up to a point, but beyond that, if you're going to make it swing, you have to go and spend time in his hood
Yeah.
and see what they eat and laugh and drink and I think that's music is strongly connected to your life,
Yes.
your story, your love, your passions, your fears, your strengths, your desires, your aspirations. Um, this is what we play every night. We can
Absolutely.
be the strongest person on stage some nights. We can be the weakest or quietest, depending on the journey that's happening. We are not. It's not static. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and I learned so much playing with John McClaughlin and Gary Husband and Etienne Mbappe because they're all heroes of mine, man. You know, I respect and love them, and I was a fan of their music before I got to play with them, and they nurtured me. They actually, if I play uh, well today, it's because of these people. They actually covered me and said, "Okay, we see you got something, and man, it's something else, and we're gonna take care of you." You know, because I don't know if you know this, but I stopped playing drums for like 17 years.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think we
Yeah.
spoke about it.
We spoke about it. You were involved in film music for a long time.
Because there was nobody to play with. There was electronics. It was all studio and no live gigs, no jazz for sure. So I never thought I would play drums again. I
Mhm.
mean, I had a mother I had to look after. My daughter was born. Um, we had a studio, and I was fine because as long as I'm making music, I'm. You know what it did? If I hadn't got unemployed as a drummer, I would never have become a producer and arranger
Yes.
because I had to teach myself that everything. Um, so
It's a blessing
you,
in disguise, isn't it?
it's a blessing in disguise. So today I don't need anybody to write music. I write my own music. I sketch my own harmonies. I can write point counterpoint. I can write for an orchestra because imagination. We have imagination and
Yeah.
technology. So you know.
Yeah.
So really, Fourth Dimension. They made me the drummer I am today. I owe it to them and to, of course, all the other musicians I played with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Great. Ranjit, I wanted to speak a little bit more in details about Konnakol, and especially, I remember our conversation back in the day in London about what Konnakol does, what when you learn Konnakol, what happened in your brain and how it
Yeah.
contributes to
Yes.
whatever you are doing or writing or playing with other people.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about that
Yes.
contributions? What happened when you started to learn Konnakol?
Um, it was totally fascinating for me. Um, there's a wonderful Mirdangam player in Bombay. In fact, I'll connect you guys. You'll enjoy. He is just, I mean, as a human, he's one of my oldest friends, and uh, he is so informed about the parallel uh, existence between drum set and this because of spending time with me, and because I would keep asking him, like, show me, show me, show me. And to make it easy for me, he started thinking like a drummer. He started thinking like a Western drummer about certain things. So, for instance, I I think if we did a scan of our brains, I think an intense study of rhythm has to have some physiological impact on the structure of your brain. I'm quite convinced about this because um, what it gives rise to is a deeper understanding. Because it really, on one level, it's pure mathematics. It's mathematics which is Vedic, and it's beautiful. When you see the poetry in that. Um, so I first started studying it like anybody else, learning corvées and stuff, and seeing how I could play it on the drums. And then I actually stopped um, trying to play the information, but all I wanted to do was to let it enter me and forever change the way I think about syncopation. Now, I went through a transitionary process because I had to unlearn a lot of the stuff that I was very attached to, which was mimicking my favorite drummers and being a Western drummer. And I understood that I didn't have the everyday cultural advantage. Because when you live in India, I mean, to play meaningful progressive jazz or jazz rock music, I don't think it can exist in a vacuum. You need like minded people to share the experience with, and you need to get on stage every night, either get your ass kicked or kick ass. It's that. You need that. And I didn't have that. So I'm not going to get on stage and just play flamadiddles and blushda, blushda, blush. Hey, Tony's done that. Vinny's done that. They've all done that. What am I going to do? What is
Mhm.
what am I going to be known for? So I just took a moment to stand still and try and find a new way of expressing myself and taking this rhythmic information, but um, not verbatim, letting it enter me and just change. And it took a while. It took a while because initially, when you're searching, you sound like shit.
Okay.
I mean, at least to me, it's like because you're searching. It's you don't really know. And it took me some time, and then I settled into a place where, yeah, I'm comfortable now. So I played drum set, but um, the Indian information has changed the way I syncopate and the way I play behind John.
Yeah.
Um, Also, what it's done is because I don't read or write music, so I use Konnakol to break down arrangements.
Yes.
So the spaces between hits and stuff that John sends me are all Konnakol poems that allow me to remember the song.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great tool for memorizing things where you don't. I mean, you have to have the luxury of getting the material before. If I was asked to sight read a gig, I can't. I wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, Konnakol definitely helps me learn any piece of music, really.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I have to say that I have a very, very similar experience, also being a jazz musician, there's not much, because the Indian rhythm, especially the South Indian rhythm, is so specific and so strange and so different than any other rhythmic tradition, jazz,
Oh,
beat,
yeah.
jazz, or anything on this
Yeah.
planet, really. And when you start to come up with all these crazy corvies or T-highs in the middle of a jazz piece, it's going to sound really strange unless you're really, really clever about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everybody knows that you're going to do that or not.
Yeah.
But so I ended up in the same situation like you, where I didn't really use it so much, as you said, verbedum,
Yeah.
but just use that facility of being able to think across the bar line,
Yeah.
being able to think, like you said, poetically, with rhythm,
Yeah.
having the rhythm like a stream of
Yeah. Yeah.
of phrases that overlap the bar line and create
Yeah.
this beautiful geometric shape in space, which is really something unprecedented in any of the rhythmic tradition
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. To take a simple thing of how you can take information out of another culture is, I saw the great maestro Zakir Hussain, who's my elder brother, and I get to spend time with him, and it was one of his solo concerts, and I went to see it, and I noticed something. When they start the solo, there's a little segment called Peshkar. Peshkar in North India, and especially from his family, which is the Punjab school. And he was doing this thing where, so, the left hand, which is their bass drum for tabla. So he'd play these long passages with no bottom end, with no baya. So it's all just top, 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 and then suddenly, and I thought, wow, that'd be far out in a drum solo, right?
Yeah.
And I took that. So if you're playing in whatever time signature you're playing, so all you do is you're grooving with just cymbal, snare, the hat, little things, and then suddenly you bring the bass drum in, like after 8 or 10 bars, and it's just a simple thing like that. It's not even, so I'm not taking the information, I'm taking the spirit. We want the spirit of the music.
Yeah.
Once you understand the spirit of the music, then you make it your own on whatever your instrument is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I totally get that thing, when with tabla players, they make a point out of playing without and with the bass, and that kind of
Oh,
tension and release, it's so beautiful,
beautiful.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so great. Yeah, I had earlier on, I had Pete Lockett on the show, and he was speaking about that precise thing, about that quality in North Indian music in tabla playing.
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's my relationship with this culture is, and listen, I may be Indian and live in India. I'm a Western drum set player, and I've got as many obstacles as you have because my mind is wired for the drum set. So I may have a head start by being geographically here and culturally soaking up, because I think it's important that if you're really, really, you have to come here. You have to come to India. You've got to go and spend time with these masters. Just be in their environment, because then you will know their story and why it is what's, you know what I'm saying? It'll give you another layer to the information you already have.
Yeah, yeah.
But otherwise, hey man, I'm a jazz drummer just trying to figure shit out, just like you and a bunch of other guys, man.
Yeah. That's great, man. So, Rajit, can I know that in our meetings here and there when you are in London, we were kind of exchanging a few Konnakol compositions and ideas and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Maybe to end, can you show us a little composition you're
sure.
working on a moment, or just one of your favorite?
Yeah, I think what I'd like to mention here, and this is something my friend Sridhar Parthasarthi, I took from him, is, so corvées are compositions, And it's great to know these compositions, okay? But what you must actually get is the underlying mathematical formula, which are universal formulas that you can apply to any corvée. So if I have to give you, I'll give you a couple of examples, like of saying, like the simplest corvée that I first learned was takit taka dibi tati gena tum tati gena takit taka dibi tati gena tum tati gena tum tati gena takit taka dibi tati gena tum tati gena tum tati gena tum tati gena ta. So it's takita taka dimi tati gena 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And then ta tum tati gena tom. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. That's the progression. Very basic, very simple. But Sridhar broke it down so nicely. So instead of that particular way, so if you're doing 2, 3, same corvée said differently. 2, 2, 3, 4. Ta ki ta ta tum tati gena ta ki ta ta tum tati gena ta tum tati gena ta ki ta ta tum tati gena ta tum tati gena ta tum tati gena ta. So do all the 3s first, all the 4s, and he started breaking stuff down for me. And these guys, man, they do it real time on stage. It's obscene how their mind works. So like first, you know the simple khand when you do the 5, ta ti ta di gen de ta di gen ta di gen ta di gen ta di gen ta. That's your basic 5. He showed me a formula in 7. If you say the corvée in 3 speeds, the same corvée will come in 7, and it's a formula for. He's got a whole table, man, of which time signatures can be said in 7, which time signatures can be said in 9. So it's like ta te ta ti ge na tum te ta ti ge na tum ta ti ge na tum ti ge na tum ti ge na tum te ta ti ge na tum te ta ti ge na ta ti ge na ti ge na ti ge na go ta te ta ti ge go 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 ta.
Beautiful. Yeah.
In 7.
In 7. Wow.
Just saying it in 3 speeds: half time, double, and the double.
And by the way, you were using a different chapo, a different clapping method.
Yeah.
The stuff I've seen.
It's because they do.
Yeah.
For me, 7 is 4 and 3, man.
I see. Yeah.
Because Carnatic is all
I guess that is the Western in you.
It is. And I will do it. I do it like this on stage also. You know, I do my own thing. And the other important thing to note is that when I do Konnakol on stage with John, in the spirit of jazz, I don't do any corvées. I improvise, and I make lots of mistakes. But I don't do anything except the last one to bring the band in together.
Yeah. You do a little composition in the end.
So if I'm doing 7, ti ta ti tak tak juna ta tak dina 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 ta tak juna din ta din ta din ta din ta din ta din ta din tak 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 juna din ta din ta din ta din ta din tak din tak tak din tak din tak tak din tak tak din tak tak din ta dang din ta ta di ta di ta di ta din ta din. I'm improvising. I'm just having fun and letting it groove.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's in the spirit of jazz. We're playing improvisation music. I can't come out and do the same solo every night. Yeah. If I'm not going to play the same solo on drums every night, I cannot do the same Konnakol every night.
Yeah.
And I made up my own things because How fast are you going to say that? I mean, I suck.
That's a hard one.
That's a hard one,
I'm
man.
still working on that one, I have to say. Since last time we
You know?
spoke, I think it was like 5, 6 years ago. I'm still working on it.
Oh, that's a hard one, man. You
Yeah.
know. So I made up my own syllables, and if I have to do up tempo triplet, because at the end of the day, it is rhythm. It's. I'm not so fixated. I'm not a purist. You know, I'm not claiming to be a South Indian uh, Carnatic vocal expert or something, but I know enough to hang and say what I have to say. You know.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
Enough to
Yeah.
kick ass.
Enough to kick ass. Yes, this is true. This
That's
is
great.
true. So yeah, underlying formulas that you can apply to many corvees. So you need two disciplines. You need to have the corvée bank of information. Of course, make your own, which I do with Gary and me, because I don't want to do too complicated things that require a lot of sticking. So I made a couple of simple ones in 7 for us to do. You know, takatum, takatum, tadikedatum, ta, takatum, takatum, tadikedatum, ta, tadikedatum, ta, takatum, takatum, tadikedatum, ta, tadikedatum, ta, tadikedata. So little things that we can play. Takatum, takatum, tadikedatum, takatum, takatum, takatum. For 2 drums, it's great, you know. So I would say you need to know corvées, make your own. Once you understand how to create corvées, then you have these formulas of how you apply in real time. I want to give you one more. This is, I think I shared this with you, but it's like that time expansion, time stretch thing, you know? Takadimi takajana, takadimi takajana, dun ta dun. Takadimi takajana, takadimi takajana, dun ta dun. Takadimi takajana, takadimi takajana, dun ta dun. We want to do takadimi takajana, dun ta dun 3 times, right? So we did it now in a straight 4. Now we do takadimi takajana, takadimi takajana, dun ta dun. Takadimi takajuna, takadimi takajuna, dun ta dun, takadimi takajuna, dun ta dun.
Ah, beautiful. Yeah, 3 speeds.
3 speeds. And then now we can do Kandantishram. Takadimi takajuna, dun ta dun. Takadimi takajuna, dun ta dun. Takadimi takajuna, dun ta dun. So time expansion, compression. And once you understand it, then it comes into your playing. You don't need to play that. But suddenly you're swinging, and then you play a little 5/4, a quintuplet, and it allows you to think very differently,
Yeah.
you know.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's so great, Ranjit. Thank you for sharing your stories,
Oh, thanks,
and also sharing these beautiful rhythmic compositions too. So yeah, this has been a really great conversation for me. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you sometime soon. Maybe next time you're in London, or
Yeah, or whenever they get a vaccine, man.
yeah, that's
What's
right.
going on? What's
Yeah.
going on with this, man?
Yes, incredible. So what are you doing at the moment? Are you doing some internet work or?
Well, you know, the tragedy with me is that my studio is not where my house is, so
I see.
I don't have the drums at home. So I've been writing some vocal music, some new things. I have a little trio with Etienne Mbappe and Christophe Cravero, wonderful piano and violinist from Paris. So we're going to exchange material, release something. It's a great time now. Collaborate, release something. John is thinking of maybe sketching some songs, sending it to us. My challenge will be to try and get permission to get to the studio once every week at least, so I can go and track some drums. Otherwise, I'm quite happy not to meet a lot of people. You know, I mean, we're happy with ourselves. We're in good company.
And again, it's sometimes it's a blessing in disguise, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's getting introspective and writing and besides the obvious tragedy of what it's doing to the planet and some people who've lost their lives, um, I must say that it's not very different from my everyday life, really.
Mm.
Writing music and spending time with my family, and I don't miss a lot. I miss my drums. I miss that because yeah, the practice pad, yeah, okay, but yeah, I miss playing. Yeah,
Yeah,
but otherwise,
I hear
it's
you.
okay.
I hear you.
Yeah,
It's same
yeah.
here.
You have drums at home? You have drums at
I
home?
have a practice pad kit, which is kind of an acoustic
Mm,
kit, but it's got these pads on it, and
mesh heads. Yeah.
yeah, something a little bit,
Ah,
like the next step up from mesh
okay.
head, and some low Zildjian low volume cymbals, which are all
Right,
right,
right.
but
Yeah, yeah.
it's really after a while is what am I doing, wasting my time here? But anyway, it keeps me going, and when all this starts to come down, come back to the kit,
Yeah,
play
yeah,
some music.
yeah. Great, great.
Wonderful, man. Ranjit, thank you so much. It's been great to see you and speak to you again. And
Yeah.
I hope we'll
Thank
meet
you.
again.
Thanks for having me, Asaf. Good luck with everything and God bless.